My name's Chris Newman. I'm Mitsubishi Electric Zero Carbon Design Manager. It's my role to try and help my colleagues and our customers to design the lowest carbon possible heating and cooling systems. So one of the government consultations in the UK that's out at the moment is about raising minimum performance efficiency standards for heat pumps. So we're obviously really interested in this consultation because it will affect a lot of the products that we supply to the market, both in the UK, and obviously there's a parallel consultation running in the EU as well at the moment. So we're really keen to put our views forward and try and help the UK government to push heat pump efficiency as high as it possibly can. Well, consultations are really good for the industry because it allows feedback both from manufacturers like ourselves, also from members of the public and other interested bodies. So the government can collect all of that feedback and then try and use that to shape legislation and policy moving forward. So this particular consultation is referring to minimum efficiency standards for heat pumps. And obviously that's really going to be good for end users, it's going to be good for building owners and occupiers because it's going to push up the minimum efficiency of these products, try and use less energy, try and produce less operational carbon, and ultimately try and help the UK to achieve its challenging carbon budgets in the future. But these consultations obviously do present problems. As a manufacturer, we're trying to make sure that we both comply with minimum standards, but also, of course, we're aiming to far exceed those minimums. So here we've got an opportunity to give our feedback to government and to try and help them understand the challenges that changing the legislative landscape will give to us as a manufacturer. But it's also important to understand that manufacturers like ourselves supply products not just to the UK, but also to the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. So we need to try and make sure, if we can, that there's some alignment with those standards and minimum requirements to make it easier for manufacturers like ourselves to research and develop products, to provide labelling and technical information and documentation that supports the product sale across multiple regions. And that's one of the things that maybe in the current consultation from the UK government, it looks like some of the areas that they're considering making changes are going to be slightly different with the rest of the EU. So that's something that we're going to have to really think about and provide feedback back to the government as to whether that's a good idea or whether it might create challenges for a manufacturer like ourselves. Well, obviously the proposals from the UK government and the EU Commission are slightly misaligned at the moment, but ultimately, depending on what actually happens and what does come into legislation or not come into legislation, at the moment it looks like the UK government are trying to go a little bit earlier than the rest of the EU, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we do need to try and find exactly how that works from a manufacturing point of view, so that we've got certainty as to what minimums are required in which markets that we're operating in, and also we've got time to develop the products, because of course we're interested in far exceeding those minimum standards if we can, but that also is not just the R&D of the product, that's also the logistics of manufacturing and stocking and then promoting those products and making them available at the scale that we need them in the UK, as well as the rest of the EU. So those sorts of things can take quite a considerable amount of time, and at the moment there are multiple consultations and changes in this market. We've seen recent changes in the F-gas market which have taken effect in the EU but have not actually been directly copied across to the UK yet. So we are starting to see some divergence of those legislative requirements across the UK and the EU, and that is an area that obviously we want to try and make sure that they're aligned as possible if we can. Well, anything that can force up the minimum efficiency of heat pumps in the market is going to be good for users of the technology. From our point of view as a worldwide manufacturer, we're always interested in trying to raise the efficiency of our products well above the minimums wherever we can. And in this area, consultation is really good because it gets multiple manufacturers, users, contractors and designers all involved in providing their feedback back to government so that they can try and make legislation that actually works and helps and tries to drag the efficiency of products up so that users and purchasers and designers of these type of technologies can rest assured that they're getting products that are well and truly in step and on track with trying to achieve the UK's challenging net zero goals.